All right, so we got that one going. Let's get that one going, test. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Guy Midkiff. I've got Walter Meyer in here in the studio with me. I'm going to be interviewing him today for City Council. This is what we call Big Mic interviews and commentary, coming right out of Washington, Missouri. This is live, so what you see is what you get. Walter, why don't you begin by introducing yourself, the ward that you're running for, etc., etc.
Okay, I'm Walter Meyer, and I'm running for Ward 1 Councilman. I'm married to my wife Kathy. We have 3 daughters, 5 grandkids, and 2 great-grandkids.
2 great-grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
I feel my age.
One of the reasons that, or one of the first questions I always like to ask people is, why the heck are you running?
Well, I got interested a few years ago when I saw that the direction the country seemed to be taking. You know, there's just too much liberal things going on that I think we just need to get back to some conservative values and try to get this country back on track as far as our national debt goes. And there are other things that bother me, and there's just not that many people interested in politics, and somebody's got to step up to the plate.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody wants to call a friend and let them know that we're on live, I just sent it out via Facebook. Technology is a pretty amazing thing. I sent a notification out through Facebook. This is going out through a program called Ustream, and then it'll be recording of it will be available on washmo.com probably in a day or two. I'll get it up as quickly as I can. So Walter, who's been one of the greatest influences in your life, one of the greatest role models?
Well, my dad was, for one. The man worked like 50, 60 hours a day. I mean, you know, a week. Back when we were kids, we were 12 of us. I have 11 siblings. 2 of them have died here within the last year or so. But the reason I got interested in politics years ago is when I saw Ronald Reagan on TV one night. And I remember him coming in for this meeting that they had, and he had a stack of papers about 4 inches thick on a bill that he was supposed to read and sign within the next 24 hours. And he slammed it down on the thing. He says, something needs to be changing in our government. And I thought there was a man who at least had a vision on, you know, things that have to be done in order to get things straightened out to really help people out in this country. A lot of these programs and things that they come up with, instead of leaving it to the private sector, they always end up, the government tries to take it over, and it always ends up costing about 10 times more than what it should. That's just a personal opinion.
Ronald Reagan, when he took office, the federal code book had 72,000 pages of code in it. By the time he left office, he had it down to 42,000 pages of federal code. So that was almost a 50% improvement.
That is. What
clubs, affiliations, military, etc., associations are you associated with?
Well, I went in the Air Force. I served 4 years in the Air Force. Then when I came out, I went to work on McDonnell Aircraft, and I got into the aircraft industry. And I worked for several vendors I was in the aircraft industry about 23 years. I learned how to operate all the machinery, so then I became a shop foreman and department head. And then when I got remarried, I kind of got tired of the aircraft business. So I decided to go into home building. So I've been a home builder and self-employed contractor now for 22 years. Well,
I can only hope that the last airplane you made as a disgruntled airline employee was not one of the ones that I fly. So that answers the question, have you ever owned a business and who are you currently employed by? Do you think it gives you an advantage owning a business?
I think it does. You know, I can see a lot of the problems that homeowners have on trying to keep up with maintenance and the codes and things that we have. One of the things that bothered me here several years ago was this home inspection. You know, when they first came up with that, I was worried about it affecting the homeowners. I don't like the idea of anyone coming into your major investment in your life and trying to set restrictions on what you can do and what you can't do when it comes to selling your home or before anybody can move into it. You know, I went ahead and went through, and some of the changes were for the good. But that's yet to be seen how far that'll go over the years.
Did you grow up in Washington?
Yes, I did. I was born and raised, actually my first 12 years of life were right on Main Street. I lived right down there by Bowl and Feed store.
Do you feel like it gives you a leg up running for office, being from that town?
Well, I'll tell you, it gives me a real concern for our town. You know, I knew it back when it was very small, and I've watched it grow over the years. One of my main concerns is I don't want it to grow so fast that we end up being like St. Charles or some of the suburbs of St. Louis. That is one thing that worries me.
Tell the viewer why they should vote for you, Walter.
Yeah, simply because I care and I'm willing to listen to anyone who gives me a call. You know, I've tried to cover the ones that have called in. Like when I was first campaigning the first time around, I had a man tell me that they were having trouble getting anything done down at the tennis courts on the east end of town. So that was one of the first things I got into when I was elected. Was I got into that, and they did go down and fix them. So I did get some action on that. And anything that comes up, I'm willing to bring it up and see if there's anything we can do with it.
Fair enough. Do you feel like, or do you know that you're being supported by any of the current councilmen or the mayor? Have they endorsed you publicly or privately?
No. You know, I've got some good friends on the council, but nobody has come out and said they'd endorse me on anything.
Do you have an agenda, Walter?
Oh, no, just my only agenda is to make sure that, you know, that we follow the rules of this town and just keep track of what's really going on. Because a lot of times there's little things that you hear about, but you can't put your finger on. It's nice to have, you know, at least know what's going on in the background.
Sometimes some of the councilmen appear to not make as many of the council meetings as some of the other councilmen. I don't know that I'd put it in the habitual category of being missing council meetings habitually, but it is noticed by the city. What do you think about councilmen that seem to have a difficult time making city council meetings, and what could possibly be done to make sure that they show up?
Yeah, I suppose you could come up with some kind of a fine thing or something. My main concern would be like the only 2 meetings I've missed was when I went on vacation last year. I missed 2 meetings in a row. But I think that would have to be a case-by-case thing because, you know, with illness or jobs or there's so many things that can interfere, you know, when this is a part-time thing. You know, it's sort of it's something that you seek, but, you know, there are going to be things that happen. But if you got an habitual one, you know, it's possible. You should check into it. You know, if you're not that interested, you shouldn't be in the job.
As we've seen in Wisconsin, whether it's legitimate or not, sometimes by not showing up for a city council meeting, you prevent a quorum. If there's no quorum, then you can't hold a vote on controversial issues. Is that something you'd ever partake in?
No way. I think they should all be thrown out of office for what they're doing. That's their job. Whether they like it or not, that's what they were elected to do. They need to get in there and do their job. If they aren't going to do it, they should be replaced.
How much money do you plan on spending on your campaign?
Well, I already have the signs, and I'm just reworking those, so it's probably going to be around a little less than 500 is what I'm thinking. So far, that's what it looks like.
Last year, there was a movement at the state senate level to expand the role of mayor. And basically, if I remember correctly, it would reduce the number of councilmen that would give the power back to the mayor, the additional power. I don't know that I'm explaining this exactly correct, but it no longer took a supermajority. It took a lower threshold and would have, and I saw it over a 2-year period on city council, would have increased the power of the mayor substantially. Would you support that?
No, I don't think. His main job is to break any kind of a gridlock that you may have between the council members, and I think that's the way it should stay.
About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the city council voted on and passed verbatim minutes as part of an increase in transparency in government. Do you feel that verbatim minutes are a good thing? And if you don't, would you ever vote to get rid of them?
From what I've seen, verbatim minutes are very good. And the way they're taken down, you can see exactly what was said, when it was said, word for word. I think it's a good idea. To me, I would vote to keep that in. One
of the reasons that the city of Washington is seen by many as being a very successful community is because people get so involved, and we've got numerous boards. We've got over 100 volunteers on these boards. There's a lot of these boards, though, that people have been in those positions for years, even decades, and those are appointed for the most part by the mayor. Some of them are not. Some of them are even appointed by their fellow city councilmen. Would you ever consider putting a term limit on some of these board positions so that there could be fresh and new blood and new ways of thinking on these boards? Or are you pretty much happy the way things are, status quo?
That's one thing I hadn't given much thought to be honest with you.
Fair enough. We'll go on to the next one. So that the voter may have some insight into the way that Walter Meyer thinks, let's talk about some of the past issues that's been before the City Council, and some of the ones that are pending and potentially looming out in the future. For example, Highway 100 Beautification. Your opponent wrote an editorial where she agreed rather vociferously with your opinion on Highway 100 Beautification. Talk to me a little bit about your position on Highway 100 Beautification and how you would answer the comments that your opponent made about you.
Well, the beautification thing, I think that it's something that's not needed right now, you know, with the country in the financial shape that it is. You know, our county alone has talked of over a $600,000 shortfall for this year. The state's in financial trouble. I mentioned at the council that the other night that every man, woman, and child in this country right now owns $45,000 apiece in this country on our national debt. Every day that goes by, we're spending $1.4 billion just on the interest on the national debt. And when I hear these figures, it just scares the heck out of me, and I cannot, for any reason whatsoever, come up with why we should be spending money on something that doesn't provide jobs or security or safety for the citizens.
Well, your opponent would say, in fact, that it does supply jobs, and it would be, I believe the word stimulus was used. If it wasn't, it was alluded to. Do you feel like that the roughly $750,000, of which, what was it, how much was matched by the city?
Let's see, we had to come up
about
$154,000.
Okay, so the city's match would be $154,000. Do you feel like we would have gotten our money from that investment? I mean, the other argument is not only will it bring jobs to the community, but it'll help beautify Washington. Companies will come in and they'll see our nice medians, the nice entryway gateways into Washington, and they'll make them want to live here. So I think those are two of the stronger arguments that I've heard for it.
Well, Washington's already well known all over St. Louis. You mentioned Washington, almost everybody knows where it's at. So many people come out here to visit. I don't think we need sort of a gateway thing coming into it. What I'd like to see, if we're going to spend that kind of money, for one thing, I'd like to see that railroad crossing down there. I'd like to see that put in before summer comes around. You know, it is in the budget on the half-cent sales tax, but that's maybe a year or two away. Mm-hmm. And that's something for me is really a danger spot now that's been brought up because there's a lot of social events that go on down there. And if nothing else, I'd like to see that 154 maybe put toward beautifying downtown. You know, you go around downtown, there's no flowers, no trees, and there's a lot of things that could be done around the community that would make this town look a lot prettier.
Another controversial issue that your opponent has taken a couple of shots at you about is your position on no smoking ban. Let's let everybody understand exactly where you stand on the no smoking potential. Now, there is not a no smoking ban, but there's been a lot of talk from the mayor. She was on one of the local radio stations recently, appeared to be really talking up a no smoking ban. And I think the voters would like to know where you stand on the no smoking ban, because right now the opinion in the public is that you're for a no smoking ban.
No, I'm not for a no smoking ban. Last thing I want is more government control in our lives. The reason I brought up the no smoking was because I was at a kids' football game. My grandson was playing, and we had our grandkids and our great-grandkids with us who were very small. And we were sitting right on the sidelines, and these people next to us were puffing away like crazy. We asked them to quit, you know, or move, and they said, they just looked at us and kept right on smoking. And the only thing I really wanted was some kind of signs put up around there just to keep people back away from where the kids are all playing. You know, you got everybody sitting down on the sidelines. I don't want somebody puffing a cigarette in my grandchild's face. Now, to respect most smokers, and I've talked to a lot of them, most of them just have the decency to make sure that they're far enough away to where they don't go around offending people. They know that a lot of people don't like smoking, period. I don't smoke.
So you will not support, in any form or fashion, a no smoking ban in Washington?
I don't think so. If that thing were to come around, I'd like to see put up to a vote by the citizens of this town. Let's get a majority on how people really feel about it.
Well, let's just take that for example. Would you want to put it before the citizens for a vote, with exceptions? For example, Legion, VFW. Would you want any exceptions at all?
Yes, I would like exceptions. I think these private clubs, I think that should strictly be their business. You know, these people belong to these clubs. It's like your own home. You're allowed to smoke in your own home. If you're paying to belong to an organization, you should be allowed to do whatever that organization is willing to do.
All right, let's kind of go through here and hit some of these highlights. How would you have voted on Camp Street Bridge?
I would have voted against it. And my main concern was when I went down there and looked at the location and everything, to me it just seemed like a very awkward place to be trying to get emergency equipment up to a fire coming in that way. That thing should have been moved down somewhere where it would have been a lot more convenient and you didn't have to run around through the neighborhood in order to get to wherever the problem was. Mm-hmm. I just felt that money Bill spent on the, when they first did I forget how much money they put out, to take a look at it. And I just felt that was ill spent. Why throw good money after bad?
Moving right along here, there's a bit of a movement afoot to possibly bring mandatory sprinklers to new construction on residential buildings. Would you support that? No
way. I think that's ridiculous. I think these homeowners are, you're already intruding too much. I think that should be up to each individual person. If they want to offer it to a homeowner when they're building their house, at a discount or something or whatever, let the homeowner build it. That's up to the homeowner. Some of these things that they come up with, to me, with the freeze and thaws and the storms that we've had, can you imagine having that in your house, not being able to shut it down in some way, and then being, you get 3 days of real cold weather and you have no heat in the house? The damage that could be caused by something like that in hundreds and hundreds of homes would be ridiculous.
How do you feel about using TIF money for projects in the community? Tax incremental funding, I believe, is what it stands for.
I think it's a good idea for something, but I think that sometimes that's put out there a little too quickly. I think it's something that everybody needs to get a real good grip on what exactly it's being used for, who it's helping, and how much is actually going out there.
And trash collection fees, looks like they're going to be going up. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've had a few people comment on that, but after looking at what the fees have been and then comparing them to other towns and cities around us, I think we've got a very fair fee. With the increments that we're doing it in, it has to go up. It's a losing proposition on our recycling and I think for all in all, I think the town does a great job with our trash. There are no limits or anything else. They pick up your branches, they do so much. For the amount of money that we're paying per month, even at the top rate within 3 or 4 years when they get to the top, I still think that's a very, very low fee for all that they do.
I've got a couple of questions left here at the bottom of my list. Do you have any ideas on how the city can save taxpayer money?
Well, the one thing I think would be on the leaf collection. I know last time I think it was like $18,000 for the leaf collection. I think that's the correct figure, but I'm not sure. But I was thinking, we are talking about getting together and trying to figure out some other way to bring that cost down.
I think it was about $70,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe I was thinking $80,000.
Yeah, it's closer to 18
because I knew it was really expensive. But the council has talked about trying to get together and see if we can come up with some way of changing that system where it'd be a lot less expensive, maybe putting out bags for people to bag their own and just going around collecting those, which would knock the cost way down.
Yeah. And the last question I have for you, Walter, is do you have any ideas on how to bring jobs into the community? I know it's a hot topic. Unemployment rate, the real unemployment rate, not the bogus one that's used by the government, it's closer to 18 to 20%, not the 9% that they advertise. And it's really hurting everybody across the board. how would do you have any ideas on how we could bring jobs into our community? And do you even think it's your job as a city councilman to do that?
Well, I think if the opportunity grows, I think it's the duty of every councilman to try and do that. We're elected to try and help the citizens of this town, and jobs would certainly be a wonderful thing. I talked to this one person I know. They said that they brought it before the city before they wanted to talk to them about bringing in some like Google. You remember one project I think that you brought up?
Yeah, that was a high-speed internet, super high-speed internet that would have been used by. What I always wanted to see was high-tech jobs coming to the community. I always thought that they're good-paying, well-paying jobs.
Right, that's what this person was saying. They say this is an ideal location. It's a beautiful spot. We have all the facilities. We've got good people. What we need, though, is the people with the foresight to see how many jobs are out there, good, high-paying jobs in this particular field.
Well, why don't we conclude by doing this? Look into the computer. There's probably at least 10 or 20 million people watching you right now. And just talk to them and tell them why they should vote for you. Why you think I should vote for you as opposed to your opponents, and conclude that way.
There's a job for you. Well, I think the only reason I would really think that you need to vote for me is simply because I do care about what goes on in the community. And I've been on the council now for 2 years, and I've seen a lot of things that I never had any idea that was going on. And I think it's a good experience for everyone. I'd like to see more people run for the council who are really interested in seeing this city grow, and move on with jobs and things. And the only thing I guess I can really say is that I really care about this town. I grew up here. I still have a lot of family here, a lot of my brothers and sisters. I only have one brother who lives out of state. Everyone else is right around this community. They lived here all their lives.
Must be fun at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, we have some good family get-togethers.
Well, Walter, thanks so much for coming in at 7:30 in the morning. Really appreciate it. And good luck to you, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back in about 5 minutes with our next victim. This has been Guy Midkiff with Big Mike Interviews and Commentary.